Finding happens a lot of times is agents have this need to prove their value, which I believe we should. Always. I talk about value, but it's not so much the value in what we are skilled to do, it's our value in well, it's like two peacocks that come together to prove which one has the prettier plumes. Yes. Right. And we get in the way. I've found that agents, anybody have that where the agents actually, not our agents, but the other agents get in the way and actually kill a deal just because they want to prove that they're either more knowledgeable, and they're not, or more advanced or more experienced or whatever. And so it becomes this game of who can win, and it has nothing to do with the client. Has anybody had a deal like that? and it's amazing. And the one thing that I really have come to realize is we had a huge peacock on the other side of a deal with one of our agents. And our agent was trying to out-peacock this other agent, and I said, stop. You can't do it. You just can't. You have to get out of the way and get yourself out of the way. And as miserable as it may seem, we have to step back and not get into this fight between agents. And I see this all the time. And I just want you to know that your competition is actually your best support system. So think of that. Your competition is your best support system. So how do you win a competition to become a competitor to be your support system? Anybody? Zelda.
So just respect them and sort of acknowledge their expertise.
Yeah, in Jumpstart I talk about how to win over the expert. An expert, if it's the mother of maybe there's a mother, hate to use that, but in Florida who was a realtor for 50 years and has only been retired 5, lives in Florida, and now has come up to help their child buy a house. That's an expert. Now your job is not to show that expert how much you know. That job is to make the expert love you. Your job is to make the expert love you. So that's the same thing. Is your job is to be, I call it the transaction whisperer. When they go high, you go, no, when they go high.
You go high.
So that is not really a pickle. It is a word of advice, and it should last you a lifetime because there's always a bigger peacock out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So next up we have Colin to tell us about everything that's happening in the recruiting world. Let's see what kind of guests we have today. Hey Colin, how are you?
Hello. Hello. We do have some guests today. First off, we have Brian Ortiz. Raise your hand. Sorry, I'm going to embarrass you guys and draw attention to you. Brandon Cantrell. There we go. Larry Crutcher. Margaret Hamrick. Welcome. They are considering joining Village. And we have 2 new villagers. We have Dallin Hudson and Peyton Cooper over here in the kitchenette area. They have joined us at 12 South office and are working with David Binkley on some exciting new stuff. And we also have some information. The compensation bonus referral. Okay, I'll just talk about it. Okay, so as many of you guys know, we have a bonus referral program. If you bring agents to us, you can earn a little extra pocket money. So if you recruit an agent, connect them with me, and they have 0 to 5 real estate transactions within the prior 12 months, you can get a $500 one-time lump sum bonus referral payable upon their first closing at Village. Here's the key. You need to tell me that you are sending this agent or this prospective agent to us. If I don't know, you don't get credit. And then the system elevates up. 6 to 10 real estate transactions, you can get a $1,000 bonus. 11 to 19, you can get $1,500, and 20 plus, a $2,000 bonus. And this goes paid by village. So it's a little incentive for you guys to bring us some great quality agents who have some experience, as well as sending some new licensees to us. And take 60 seconds to talk amongst yourselves or introduce yourself to somebody new. Thanks.
So where you go? Hopefully you found out some good news about your neighbor, what they're doing over the holiday. And of course, I'm not going to quiz you. Let's bring it in, because I think you're going to want to hear the next part of this discussion. Thanks, Ashley. Thank you. So, really appreciate Colin and everything she's doing with those efforts. And also, we have a slide that we're going to put up, and it's going to be all the referral information that she was mentioning up here, and that's going to be on Facebook. So if you want that information, it's going to be on Facebook. Ashley, are you going to pin that post?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll be the pinned post, and it should be pretty easy to find at the top. Okay. So next up, Ashley, if you'll flip this over, we're going to do what, I don't know, we kind of lovingly called it a town hall discussion. And I think it might be what a lot of you guys are here for today. Because I think everybody is just in love with my email skills, right? I'm so glad that you guys are grading me on sentence structure and not content most of the time, so thank you for that. But to kick it off, Bobby has asked for a couple minutes to come up here.
I did not ask.
Well, I'm doing everything wrong today, aren't I?
You asked me.
That's right, that's right. I did ask Bobby to come speak about this because we were trying to determine, just the best time to talk about it.
Well, this all arose because there's been an arousal of interest and frustrations and what have you. And so I felt that I needed to share what is on the horizon for me and for you, which I think is pretty exciting. So I am turning 70 in September. And I decided that 70 was a magic number in life. First of all, I thought I'd be long retired before that, but I've enjoyed my wonderful time here as the managing broker of Village. And Mark and I have been together 15 years, and I've loved every second of it. But I've decided that my real passion is in coaching and teaching. And so I'm going to step down on December 31st, unless Mark makes me go before, as the managing broker. Okay? But I am going to continue on in some capacity here in coaching. I know I'm going to continue the coffees and some of the teaching. But I wanted to share with you something that has made this transition really, really wonderful. For me in my head anyway, because it wasn't so good in my head until recently. And that has been the hiring of some incredible people that I have come to know, which I didn't know before, and become part of what I consider your broker team. We never used to have a huge broker team. Now we have what I call a horizontal leadership, of course with Mark at the very pinnacle. But this leadership is comprised of a lot of people, and I'd like to share who those people are that I think are going to be phenomenal, and I feel that we and you are in the best hands possible, and I couldn't say that until fairly recently. So, you know, Chris came in and he made some phenomenal changes. Some we liked, some we didn't, but we really liked what he did. Maybe not as quickly, but I have come to understand that Chris did amazing things with Village and got Village started in the right direction. And then we brought, of course, to assist him in a huge role, of course, is Lloyd, which you've only been a few weeks, but you've done a few interesting things, but you're coming
That's fair to say.
You are coming along nicely. I want to say that
With your tutelage, you know.
we are getting Lloyd trained up really good in the Village culture. But I would like to say, and I hope they're here, all 3, 4, well,
Yes,
I know,
they're all three here.
but not Angela.
No, Angela, I haven't seen.
If you haven't met Angela in the Franklin office, I adore her. She is taking that Franklin office in a way that I only dreamed it could be. I always wanted a Franklin office, and I fought and fought and fought for it. It's been a struggle, and now I feel it's ready to fly with Angela at the lead. Of course, we've always had our mainstay, which now has become my work husband, and the love of my life in the business world, John McClanahan. So John isn't going anywhere. So thank God we have a thread from the past to carry us to the future. And then I do want to introduce, though, 3 of the newest members of our broker team, and that is, 2 new brokers, and that is Tyler. Tyler, what is your last name? I've forgotten.
Graham.
Graham?
Graham.
Oh, okay. Hi, Tyler.
Good seeing you.
And Lee has taken, Lee has been absolutely phenomenal in our new WeHo office, and Tyler had to go into the East and try to make up for John McClanahan's whatever culture he has created out there. So hopefully you can turn that around. We've also hired Vaughn, Rich Creek. There he is. Now Vaughn has been encouraged, and he comes from a huge teaching background in real estate, among many other wonderful things. And you'll get to know Vaughn. But he has joined, and with Randy and myself and Katie, has joined what we call the education team. And so together, they're going to continue taking Village education to the highest level that it ever has been or could be. And I'm really proud to work side by side with you, not only the rest of this year, but next year. So I am really excited about our education. So that is pretty much my announcement. So now it's official, it's out from my own lips. I know it's been out now. But I'm really not retiring completely. I'm just going to take some resting days on the river. So that's my announcement. Is there any questions? Good.
I managed not to cry during that whole thing.
That was anything to cry about. This is exciting.
It's exciting for you.
We have
I
a
miss you.
phenomenal lead. So Mark, do you want to say a few words about the State of the Union? Oh, Jesse.
Sorry. Did you clarify who's going to be the broker here?
We have it, Jesse. Thank you for bringing that up.
Jesse, are you throwing your hat in the ring? No. So for those of you who haven't met him, this is Mark Deutschman, our illustrious leader.
First of all, I want to thank Bobby Noreen for 15 fabulous years.
Woo!
Bobby has taught me that wherever you go, there you are. And here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today, Lloyd?
So this is just going to be kind of a State of the Union town hall discussion. And I want to open up the floor to anybody who has thought something, hasn't had a chance to make a comment, or wanted to underscore the comment that maybe they made on Facebook, sent me an email, or had a private discussion with me, okay? As you're thinking of that, and please feel free to raise your hand whenever you're ready, I want you to know that I have worked diligently to try to sit down and have one-on-ones with anyone who wanted to give me feedback. And like I said in the most recent post, it has been unbelievably valuable to me to help further indoctrinate me into the culture that you guys already know and love here. Now, after having been on the periphery, on the sidelines for 5 years, I had a pretty good view of it. But I'm finding that it is really challenging to get in and do those things and lead in such a way that protects and encourages that culture for the future. And it also made me ask the question, what is that culture? What's important to us? So I want to hear from you guys today. What is culturally important to you about Village? And why are you here? What makes you stay here? If it's not the math and not the numbers for what you see, what's important? What makes this a family to you? Come on, I know you guys aren't this quiet. I've seen it on Facebook. Anybody? Yeah.
So, a lot of changes have happened already, and so I'm assuming there's a direction and an objective. What is your objective for the changes and your ultimate goal for the culture? What are you trying to create?
Well, that's a really good question. It's some of the changes that you see.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. So the question that she asked was, there's a lot of changes afoot, but what direction do we have the boat pointed in? In other words, are we just changing for change's sake? Or do we have an ultimate destination in mind? Show us on the map where you're headed. That's a fair assessment? Yeah. A lot of the changes that were already in place, and some of them are still ongoing that haven't materialized yet, Chris put together, and that was a function of a survey that he did. Chris, how long ago was the survey? About a year?
No, it was in December.
December? So that was a printed survey that everybody filled out. Hopefully a lot of you guys got a chance to touch that and give some input. And then also the one-on-ones. You just stop in and talk to Chris in his office. Now all that has been going on for more than a year, but we've seen a lot of those changes start to materialize even as late as about 6 months ago. So the last 6 months have been pretty productive in the efforts that are coming out of his office. So right now, we're trying to continue that effort. Now, as part of that process, people who approach Chris or I or anybody on the broker team, the leadership team in general, and they have a concern or something that we could do better, we will do our level best to try to figure out a way to get it done. But part of the conversation that we have is also we don't want to try to please every whim of 320 people, because that would make us a little schizophrenic. So and I have these discussions with people. I want to talk about it using the language of our core values, And that's also something when we were in strategic planning, Mark challenged the entire team to do, because as a central tenet of our culture, that's our core values. Yeah. Good question, though.
One of the things we are doing is that we have decided that we want 250 V-stars in the company. And so that means people who are selling $3 million plus. And then we want 250 V-stars and B Elite. So what we've tried to do now is try to work with people who are coming in, and those are the B risers, and we try to work them as quickly as possible to the 3 million ranks. We find that people are more successful and more attracted to the business if they start selling fairly quickly. So we've got mentorship programs in place, we have classes, we have B-Labs, we have a lot of things that help people get their first contracts underway so that they can get to a place where they're confident enough and selling enough that they can be out there in the ranks of agents. And I think the experienced agents really want experienced agents. So we want the V-stars to rise up as well. So we start doing coaching, we start doing different kinds of things, teams and clubs to help you get from 3 to 10 million. And so that's the goal. And then we have the V Elite, and those are people selling 10 to 70 million. There are people in this company as teams that are selling 70 million. And we want them to have room to grow too, and to get leadership skills that are important for them in their community. So we'll have a series of, again, trainings and sort of come in and do speaking as a public leadership skill, that type of thing, things that are really good for people who are leaders in our community. We still are a village fund culture, so 5% of everything that comes through the company goes out as a nonprofit gift to the Community Foundation, and we gift to probably 200 organizations. I'm proud to say that we passed the 2 million mark this year, so we went from 1 million to 2 million from 2014 to 2017, and that's through a family of services. That's our village family, which includes CORE, that includes, there's a holding company that owns real estate and assets, and then it's the brokerage. Everything that comes out and goes as a dividend out to the community goes to the village fund, and then you guys are contributing per transaction as change agents, hopefully, and putting money into the fund so it goes back out to the community. So I would have to say we're still a community-based real estate company. We always came in a bit more urban than most, so even in our Franklin office, we've been thinking about a great space for Franklin and walkability. We tend to try to own walkability in the city with greenways and neighborhood commercial districts, and try to help the city become a vibrant place with a vibrant core, even in our poor neighborhoods. So that's a bit of a cultural snapshot from my perspective.
And nobody, knows and has carried that cultural banner better than Mark himself. So I'm so happy that you were here to talk about that.
So if you don't mind, I really want to ask that question again. What drew you to Village when you first arrived here? If you can sum it up in a sentence or even a word, what's culturally important to you about Village?
I think for the past 8 years, from the outside looking in, I was with Crylike, and my thought was always, if Crylike disappeared tomorrow, Village would be my first stop. And that really came from just seeing how inclusive Village has always been, and how much of it like a family it really is. I would go to an event, and my company would have a handful of people there, and Village would have 50 people there, and it just really goes to show, I think, how much we, care about the industry, how much we care about each other, and how much we want to, continue to grow ourselves, through education, through events, and that's what's always drawn me to Village. And I finally, pulled my head out of my backside and said, it's time to get on over here, and I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah, that's great, Vaughn. Thanks. That's a definite new perspective for us from the outside looking in. Yeah.
Well, I was going to add, I really appreciated, one of the reasons I came here is because it was a local company, but I appreciate the community that's here and how I consider all of the agents my team.
Yeah.
I'm not just selling myself by myself. I have other agents who will offer advice, I can ask questions, they will share information with me, they will help me be better, a better agent. Village helps certainly through their education, which I think is great, but then, you just learn from the other agents that are here, and I would hate for that to ever go away.
Yeah.
Because it makes us friends, and it helps us build each other up to be our better selves in the real estate world.
That's great.
To be excellent agents.
Yeah. So that's kind of the back of the house partnership that everybody shares here in house. And if you've been here for any length of time, you've seen that assistance going on. You've benefited from it. Maybe you provide that level of service. But I think that's part of the value proposition here is just like Virginia mentioned, you're not marketing yourself when you're giving those listing and buyer's presentations. You're marketing the whole team, right? And I've heard you guys do it. You're better than anybody in the city at doing that and leveraging the value or the experience that we have as a group. Who else? Yeah.
So there was when I joined, which was almost 4 years ago, there was a certain level of personalized service that this company had in-house as well as out-of-house, as well as intimacy in terms of how the culture was infused in what you were doing.
Gotcha.
And a lot of that was, came from the experience of Bobby and Christy and sort of the leadership then, and John.
Yeah.
I think a concern is that we are growing big and fast and bringing on so many people, and we're kind of getting lost in a sea of, there's new colors for branding, there's new this, there's new that, and it's just that shift, and I think people are concerned about that specific identity that was the Purple Village banner is being diffused in like the new Nashville, and how to hold on to that. As well as the elephant in the room, I think, for a lot of people is like the additional costs for us, the base commission costs, and how to manage that. That drives for a lot of people. It's like, okay, well, we're now being charged this. How do we put that into, now sort of like, the village fund, like suddenly we're not able to like feel as flush to give to village fund because we're having to either pass this cost on to our clients or bear it ourselves. So it's a whole lot of change within, I won't say within the last 3 months. It's like all new flurry of, and nothing bad with growth. I mean, we all know this is nobody's in real estate because they don't want to make money. This is a market where we want to do it, but losing the character of this culture is really, I think, a red flag for everybody right now. Is what you're hearing in terms of any concerns and protests.
Yeah. And that's a whole lot. So let's try to unpack that for just a second. Oh yeah, absolutely. So there were a couple things that you touched on that I want to try to unpack just a little bit. The first is the cultural piece. You'd mentioned that we're moving and growing pretty fast, and that maybe that growth is a little bit too fast. Even though when we talk through that, you may realize that the growth that we're experiencing and some of the change that we're experiencing is organic growth in that there are suggestions that our crew has provided. But maybe what I'm hearing is you want a more solid vetting process for those changes, even though they're suggested by members of our own family here. Is that close?
I don't know if it's up to us as much. I mean, but I guess, like you said, there's that value of personalized intimacy that, I think everybody just needs to continue to show up on Tuesdays, and sometimes we get busy and lost, but, change is hard and difficult, but I guess the branding is changing very quickly, and suddenly we're not sure, are we supposed to be putting up our purple signs, are we supposed to have black on our cards, how is this supposed to work? It's just like, it's all just being thrown, rather discussed ahead of time, perhaps, here.
Yeah. And the branding is something that was done at the request of some of our family here as a method to provide options. Now that's not without concern, because there are some that feel, and it's a marketing tenet or a marketing standard, that you try to limit your logo and your brand as much as possible to create the repetitiveness in the public image. One of the suggestions was that we keep the logo the same, but we offer different colors that may fit into different teams and different individual personalities here, just to provide a choice to the folks here. Now, that may not have been the right decision. It may not. But I want you to know that no decision that's been made is set in stone. No decision that's been made is set in stone, okay? So we'll talk about it all.
So there's a bit of I know a lot happened in the last 6-7 months here at Village, but I also feel like we were a company that had gotten a little rusty. There was a place where, particularly when Chris came in, and it's almost like remodeling a car. He opened up the hood, he found he was going to change the spark plug, then he found out that the carburetor needed to be rebuilt, and next thing you know, it was the whole engine part by part. And there's a bit of that that's needed to happen, because I think that as you start digging in and looking at a system that's been in place for 20-21 years, it's time to come in and make some of the change. And I think it has felt fast, and faster than maybe some people would like. We're not really growing that fast as an agency. It's not like we've gone from 250 to 320 agents. It's taken quite a while for us to get there. It feels fast, but it's not as fast as you think it is. But I do think that the coming in and rebuilding the whole car, rebuilding the engine, messing with the body has done a lot over the past 6 months, and hopefully we'll slow down and absorb that, and absorb the new team and get to know people better, and take advantage of some of the stuff we already have going on with the clubs and things I think that are intimate and can be intimate, mentorships and other ways that will help bring us, bring the V-Risers to the V-Stars and the V-Stars to the V-Elite. I've asked the 10 million plus people to be welcome. you know, because there's a lot of us who are selling 6, 7, 8 million in the room, and I want them to welcome people to come into the ranks as you get more successful, because I know a number of us really do want to be successful. Not everybody. Some people want to be successful at 5 million or 6 million, and that's a very comfortable place. But those who want to advance and sell 10 million or really kick it into gear, we want a place for that too. I think that's one of the things that we heard from the top, is we weren't doing enough for the people who are here who have already put their heart and soul into it, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of people at all ends of the spectrum. Regarding the fees, it's true that the brokerage company sold almost $1 billion in real estate last year, and it would seem like we should be raking in the money. This is a business that is low margin. So it's the agent business is high margin. The real estate sales business is a lower margin business, unless you're in a place like Chicago, where a company that I just talked to has 2,200 agents, and they have their cap is an 80-20 split with no cap. We're sort of a capping city, for better or for worse, which means that at 20 to the company, you guys keep the rest. Over the past 12 years or so, we haven't really shifted our plans. We have seen 79% appreciation in our price points as a company, which means that the agents basically get a 79% raise, but the company isn't really participating in that. And I said this to another group. I said, you know, if you sell $10 million and you sell 20 $500,000 homes, the first transaction with your 70-30 split, you're going to take $4,500, or 11.5, and the company will get $4,500. The next two are like that as well, and the fourth one, the company will get $2,000, you'll get 13, and then the next one, you'll get basically 15,000, and the company gets $100. So, and then for the next 14 transactions, the company gets $100. So the company does not participate on the high end, and even with $1 billion of sales, that means 30 million in gross commission income. That means the company takes about 3 million, and then we pay all the fees and salaries and infrastructure. And we made probably $1.5 million